Good evening, guys, and welcome to interview preparation session, which has been conducting by 360 TMG. And in today's session, we'll just check a few questions regarding Python and what type of programming language it is, what are the key features beyond it, and some of the interview questions which have been asked in some of the interviews. So, as of now, first question for the day, guys. So, what type of language is Python? So, whether it is a programming language or a scripting language. So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a yeah. As we look into this, Python, it is capable of scripting, but in general sense, it is considered as a general purpose programming language. So yeah, it is also called as a programming language as well as a scripting language. Okay, so as we jump into the next question, each yeah, Python and interpreted is Python an interpreted language? If yes, explain. So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, yes, Python, an interpreted language, is any programming language which is not in machine learning code before it's when it's runtime. So therefore, Python, it is an interpreted language. Okay, yes, it is an interpreted language. So as we jump into the next question, what is PEP8? What does it stands for? What does it does? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. As we look into this PEP8, it basically stands for Python Enhancement Proposal. And these are a set of rules that specify how to format a Python code for maximum readability. This is what a PEP8 does, right? And it stands for Python Enhancement Proposal. So as we directly jump into the next question, what are decorators in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. As we jump into this, decorators, these are basically used to add some design patterns to a function. So without changing its structure, these decorators generally are defined before the function. They are just defined before a function. So there are exchanging. So to apply a decorator, we first define the decorator function. Then we write the function, how where it is being applied, and to simply add the decorator function above the function, it has to be applied to it. For example, like at the rate symbols before the. So these are some of the examples for this we use. So as we jump into the next question, what is the difference between .py and .pyc files? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. So as we look into this, these .py files are the Python source code files. And while this .pyc files contains bytecode of the Python files. So these .pyc files, they have been created when the code is imported from some other sources, like not in the same, but the when there has been imported from some other sources, it has been comes into the consideration. So the interpreter converts the source .py file into .pyc, which helps by saving time. So that's how it works. So as we jump into the next question, what is self in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, Anusha, you're right in the chat box. Go on, even try to do this. So yeah, as we look into this, what is this self in Python? It is an instance or an object of a class. So in Python, it is explicitly included as a first parameter itself. So it is not in the case of Java, where it's optional in that case. So it helps to differentiate between the methods, attributes, classes, and local variables. I think you might have an idea on what are local variables as well as what are global variables. So this says this self variable is an int method which refers the newly created objects, while in other methods, so it refers to the object whose methods were called. It only refers to them only whose methods were being called. Current instance of an object not yes, I'm sorry, you're right in the chat box. So as we jump into the next question, what is pickling and unpickling? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, now as we look into this pickle model, it accepts any Python objects and converts it into a string representation and dumps it into a file by using dump function. So this process is called pickling. While the process of retrieving the original Python objects from where it has been stored, the string representations is called unpickling. Okay, as we jump into the next question, how will you capitalize the first letter of a string? Which means suppose you have been assigned few values for a particular variable. So you have been assigned with some string values. So how to capitalize the first letter of that particular string value? We do have a function to that. We do have a declaration to that. What was that declaration? So if anyone knows the answer, try to ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, how to capitalize this string. So in Python, the capitalize method capitalizes the only first letter of a string. If the string already consists of a capital letter of the beginning, then it returns the original string which it is available over there. So if you want to capitalize a whole string, we do have some other syntaxes to be followed. This syntax is only useful for those strings. This syntax is only used to capitalize the first letter of a string. So as we jump into the next question, what are doc strings in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, what are these doc strings in Python? So these are some automatical command, not actually commands, but there are document strings. So these strings are within triple quotes, and they are not assigned to any variable, and there are therefore at sometimes several the purpose of comments as well. So these are how the doc strings goes on. So as we jump into the next question, what is the purpose of is, not, and in operators in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, operators are specific functions. So they take one or more values and produce a corresponding result. So is it returns true when two operands are true. Example, A is A, B is B. If both the operands are true, it just do that. Not, it returns the inverse of a Boolean value. In it checks some elements in present of some sequences. That's how they work. So as we jump into the next question, what is the usage of help and directory function in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, so what is the usage of this help and this directed function? So both these functions are accessible for Python interpreted and used for viewing a consolidated dump of built-in functions. So what about this both functions? What does they does? So if you come across this help function, this is used to display the documentation string and also facilitates you to see the help related to modules, keywords, attributes, etc. So if we go with this directory function, this is used to display the defined symbols. So yeah, that's it. So as we jump into the next question, explain split, sub n functions methods of RE module in Python. Like what does this methods does? What are these methods? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Functions and all. So to modify the strings Python, this modules is provided three methods. There are split, sub, and subn. So split. This uses a pattern called a split and gives a string into a list. So sub. So it finds all the substrings where this pattern matches and then replace them with a different string. It is similar to sub function and also returns new strings along with the number of replacements. Those are the functions of these three things. So as we jump into the next question, how can files be deleted in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box. We can discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, how does a Python file to delete a file in Python, you need to import an OS module. So after that, you need to use this os.remove function to remove the file. What are built-in types in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So yeah, as we look into this, what are built-in types in Python? The built-in types in Python are integers, floats, complex, strings, boolean. These are some of the built-in functions which we use in Python. Integers, what are these integers? The numbers, numerics like 2, 3, 4, 5. These are called integers. Floating points like 1.23, 3.45, 3.141. So these are all the values which you come across this floating point. Complex numbers, what are complex numbers? The numbers which are in the format of 1 plus 2i, 2i plus 3j, I plus j. The numbers that are in the format of I plus j, those are called as complex numbers. Strings, as you all know, characters which must be declared in between a single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes. So in between them, you have to only use characters, no any special symbols or special characters to be used over there, except underscore. Boolean, as you all know, it can be either a true value or a false value. Those were the built-in types which we use in Python. So as we jump into the next question, does Python have OOPS concept? Does it have any OOPS concept? So if anyone has an idea on it, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, Python, yes, it is an object-oriented programming language. This means that any program can be solved in Python by creating an object model. So, however, Python can be treated as procedural as well as structured language. So, as we jump into the next question, what are Python libraries? Name any few of them. So what were the libraries we can use in Python? You can see in Python So if anyone has an idea what were the libraries we use in Python, so they can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, as we look into this, as we all know, there are many libraries in this Python. So I have been just listed few of them over here, and those are NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, skitlearn, and there are many more. So as we jump into the next question, does Python support multiple inheritance? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in chat box, and we'll discuss the answer with them. Yeah. As we look into this, yes, multiple inheritance means that a class can be derived from more than one parent class. Python doesn't support this multiple inheritance part. It only does support in Java. Okay, this Python in multiple inheritance part will be only supported in Java programming language, not in this Python part. So as we jump into the next question, what is polymorphism in Python? What does it actually does? What is the main theme of this polymorphism in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer with them. As we look into this, Polymorphism means the ability to take the multiple forms. So, for instances, if the parent class has a method name called ABC, and the child class can also have a method with the same name called ABC, or in its own parameters or variables. So, Python allows polymorphisms. Okay, so a child class can have the type, the methods which they can assist from the parent class, but a parent class cannot get all the parameters, variables, classes from its child class. Okay. As we jump into the next question, how do you do data abstraction in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. What I'm about to say was this part, this data abstraction has been providing only for the required details and hiding the implementation part from the world. So it can be achieved in Python by using interfaces as well as abstraction classes. So as we jump into the next question, does Python makes uses of access specifiers? If anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So if you see here, we do have some specifiers, right? So yeah, so this Python, it does not derive access to the instance variables or functions. So it just downs the concept of prefixing the name of a variable. So function or method with a single or double underscores to initiate the behavior of protected and private access specifiers. So that's it for the day, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll just meet in the next session. Have a great day, guys.